This is Grace Slocum. This is my reflection video for our audio project we just finished up in Production Fundamentals. So the most challenging part of the assignment in class was trying to find a quiet and not crazy echoey space to record our interviews. So you'll notice that it kind of looks a little weird for all of our stills. We were just trying to find a space where we didn't have to turn the ISO up to 6,000 in order for the picture to be seen. Don't ever film in the stairwell, apparently. Yeah, we found that hallway space with the help of our instructor. That was fine. I'm sure there's probably going to be some exposure mistakes there just because, again, we weren't working with a great space, but I hope that it was passable enough that you could see what was going on. I thought that it didn't look awful, but definitely some little issues there. And then in terms of the actual editing part on my side, once we get out of class, knowing precisely where to cut or where to heal in order to make sure that the extra sounds you don't want, like footsteps or other people talking or whatever, knowing precisely where to cut all that out was not super clear to me. I know it was told to me, at least, that it was kind of a guessing game of where it is you're supposed to cut out. That didn't make my editing job particularly easy because I found myself cutting out large swaths of sound because I wasn't quite sure where to go to target the things that I didn't want. That just was a little bit time consuming, and I would love to go over more of how to identify those unwanted bits so that my editing job would be easier in the future. In terms of what it is that I learned during this project, and as I was breaking down our sound effects and our interviews in Audition, I was noticing that there's a lot of little extra things that I wasn't even aware of as we were filming them. And I'm sure if you broke down even this recording now, the same way that I was breaking down all of our sound effects, you would hear people in the hallway opening doors or people talking. Those are things that I can hear now as I'm sitting here, but I'm sure that there's smaller things like the air moving through the vent or other things like that that would be picked up that I wouldn't be able to hear. So that was kind of enlightening to me as I was getting into editing because there was a lot of smaller things I wasn't even thinking about that I was going to have to cut out. And then kind of a more specific point, I don't know what happened in the elevators, but there's a couple of our elevator takes, because we took like 3 or 4 of them. There's a couple of those takes where there's just a gigantic spike in audio that's so loud that like you kind of just got to tear your headphones off. That was awful. I don't know what happened there. I may have, did I bump the mic against something? I've got no idea. Okay, so moving on to what it is that I enjoyed the most during this project. I really liked working with my group. I thought they were really cool. They're nice people. And one of the things that always makes me feel like the most happy and accomplished during these projects, doesn't matter if we're just working with the camera or with lighting equipment or with our new mics or whatever, I always feel the most accomplished because I'm not I guess you'd call that a tactile learner. I'm not somebody who typically learns with my hands very well. The feeling of knowing that I can take all the disassembled pieces we get from the SRL and properly, accurately putting them all together, knowing where each of the cables goes, knowing where precisely it's got to be fitted, that makes me feel like I know a lot more about what it is that I'm doing. And that's typically my baseline of if I know how to use the camera, I know how to take the shot. If I know how to use the mic, I know how to record with the mic. I may not always be perfect, but it definitely at least gives me a baseline of I feel more confident here. So I liked that. I liked being able to use that new tech. I thought that was cool. For things that I want to change in the future, I would think that just as a small thing in terms of the editing that I have to do later, I think it would be make it a lot easier on me if I said beforehand okay, this is XYZ sound effect. We're recording this in ABC room. I think that recording room tone first would definitely make it a lot easier. And before we record the room tone, saying we're recording this in the hallway outside of our classroom, Franklin Hall. And then that way, if I say the room tone and where it is, and I say, okay, we're recording knocking on the classroom door in that same hallway, then I'm able to match up which room tone goes to which sound effect. Because if I'm trying to just kind of guess about which is which, then that's not going to help me at all. It really simplifies my editing job to know which one goes with which instead of just assuming. In terms of audio techniques that I want to learn more about next, I would love to know how to use more of the tools in Premiere and Audition, because I wasn't totally sure about the editing job that I was doing because there's a lot of tools on that page and I feel like I'm only using a few of them. So learning more about what each of the individual images and individual tools can help me to do, I think that would make me feel more confident in my eventual project that I'm going to have to turn in, because we were working with a limited amount of time and a limited number of tools to work with that we were being told about. So I think that learning more about that would only make me feel more confident in the work that I'd be able to do in those programs. And in terms of anything to help clarify or improve my understanding, I really liked the opportunity to sit down in class and start my editing work, because when I had questions in class, like, can I amplify this clip to make sure that it's falling within the appropriate decibel range, I could ask those questions to the instructor while we were sitting there, while we were like working on our stuff. Typically in these projects there's at least one like weird question that I have that I realize that I'm not quite sure about once I get back to do my editing. I really enjoyed being able to ask the questions and know how to use the tools before I even left the classroom on Thursday, and feel more ready for it by the time the, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that I'm like trying to collect all my stuff. This project felt a little... I'll compare it to this. Okay, so in our original exposure project, I wasn't quite sure how to expose the picture properly. So there were points that got taken off because I wasn't quite sure how to get the picture the way the picture was supposed to be done. And I think I've definitely feel a bit more confident with that in particular now, but not quite knowing how to expose it properly, how to know if it was properly exposed, that to me is similar to the feeling that I felt in terms of knowing where to edit or how to edit in order to make my sound better or sound cleaner, like there were things that I could do pretty easily, like editing out the sound of someone else talking when I didn't want to listen to that. But in terms of feeling for every effect that I was getting it done and I was like, yep, this feels like what it is that I'm supposed to be looking for, I didn't know if I felt that way. I wasn't sure at all. I would have really benefited from like give me an example. Give me like a video maybe, or a picture of the audio spike, or a short video on how that was edited from its original, just because I was basically opening it up and doing 3 or 4 things to each one to make sure that it sounded like alright. Like there wasn't anything that was like glaringly bad that I could hear in my like completely non-professional experience that seemed off to me. But I wasn't sure if I was doing the prescribed correct job because I didn't know what the end product was supposed to be that would sound like really good. I would love to go over some more of that. I thought that was kind of the most difficult part, was the editing. And all I would say, I learned a lot from this project. I learned a lot from the people who I was working with. I really enjoyed being able to kind of tangentially work with other groups too. You'll notice in our talking sound effect, we definitely used the help of others for that one, so that was very funny. We laughed about that for days. You've probably heard it already. I hope this video was appropriate. I hope this video was to your liking, and I hope that the project overall was like what you were looking for. I want to learn more about this to make sure that I can lock in my confidence when it comes time for our final project. So thank you very much, and that'll be all. Thank you. Hi, this is Grace Slocum. I've done 800 takes of this. I'm gonna do 801, and then I'm gonna just like leave it be. Okay? I'm gonna say I'm gonna say a million times because I'm stupid as shit. Okay. Hold up. Wait a minute. So, like, but like, um, 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 uh, um, 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 so, I hope that, okay, um, and that's about it.